Good morning, everyone. I'd like to say hello to you on this rainy day, but at least it's a little bit warmer, and the snow in great piles is melting slowly but surely. I wanted to use my reflection today, one of the Gospels we read this week, and the one we read just yesterday. So let me read it to you, and then I'll make some remarks about it. It's important to know it's taken from Mark's Gospel. Mark is the Gospel of that we're reading during the weekdays right now. So this is from Mark's Gospel. Jesus and his disciples set out for the villages of Caesarea Philippi. Along the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they said in reply, "John the Baptist. Others call you Elijah, and still others say you were one of the prophets." And he asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" And Peter said to him in reply, "You are the Christ." Then he warned them not to tell anyone about him. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and rise after 3 days. He spoke this openly. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. At this, Jesus turned around and looked at his disciples and rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do." There are two important things that you have to know that are background to this particular gospel. First of all, 44 miles north of Nazareth was a city called Caesarea Philippi. Philip, who controlled that part of Galilee, built a city in honor of Caesar. Now you got to remember that the Romans think Caesar is God. So Philip built this city in honor of Caesar. He called it Caesarea Philippi, Caesar Philip. And it was a city that contained many temples and shrines to the Roman gods. And the greatest shrine of all was the one he built just for Caesar. And it was white marble. And it was the first thing you saw as you approached this city, this huge temple in honor of Caesar, made of white marble. It was so brilliant that if the sun was shining, you had to turn away. And it was there, in front of that white marble temple, as they approached the city of Caesarea Philippi, that Jesus asked this question. He doesn't ask it somewhere else, he asks it right in front of that temple of marble. Who do you say I am? And Peter says, You are Caesar. You are God. You are the Messiah. The other background to this gospel story is this. Now remember, Mark is considered to be the secretary of St. Peter, and he writes his gospel in the mid-60s. And what was happening in Rome at that time is that Nero was persecuting the Christians. It was the very first organized persecution of Christians. And Nero was feeding these Christians to the beasts. He was crucifying them. And Peter and Paul were killed under Nero. Peter was crucified upside down and Paul was beheaded. So Mark is writing this gospel to a community in Rome that's being persecuted. And his point is, you cannot be a disciple of Christ unless you carry his cross. A suffering Messiah is what Mark portrays, and that's what Peter's hang-up is right away. He wants a Messiah of power and strength that's going to come in and overcome the Romans and establish the Jews as the great power. And when Jesus says, "No, that's not who I am. I'm going to suffer and die, and that's how I will save you." And Peter balks at that. But remember, the background is that he's writing to people that are actually suffering and trying to encourage them to know that when they suffer, they are really a disciple of Christ. And it seems today that we stand before the brilliance of a lot of temples that call our name. There's the brilliance of the temple of power and prestige and pleasure, and the great temple of excess, that the great cathedrals of our cities now are our shopping malls. These are great temples that call our attention and want us to follow them. And we stand before the temple of the Eucharist and before the temple of the Scriptures and before the brilliant temple that we call Jesus. And we say, no, you are Caesar, you are the Messiah, you are the God, and you are the one we will follow. And the sufferings that we have, we join to the sufferings of Christ for the salvation of ourselves and others. And oftentimes these are our greatest prayers, the sufferings that we have. Okay, everybody, have a good day, and I'll see you soon.